This week, EA announced that they had suffered a cyber attack, and attackers were able to gain access to a ton of valuable proprietary information. So today we're going to talk about that. Hey everybody, welcome to Studio Sec. Thank you so much for watching. Like this video if it's helpful and informative. Comment down below with things that you've learned or any information you found about this, and subscribe for more content. Now, Electronic Arts, probably all of you know who that is, but in case you don't, EA is one of the largest developers of video games out there on the market. They're known for all kinds of games like FIFA and Madden, but they also recently purchased DICE, which is another main developer. They're creating Battlefield 2042, which is just coming out, and several other large name properties. Now, by big, I mean that they service hundreds of millions of customers, hundreds of millions of players that play their games every other day, every week, whatever frequency that they do worldwide. And they have some of the largest and most successful games on the market. Now, this past week, EA announced that they had suffered a cybersecurity breach, and attackers were able to gain all kinds of very sensitive proprietary data. Now, EA did specify, and this is good news, that this data was not player data. It didn't affect player privacy or anything like that. It was mainly just internal company data, but it was important internal company data. The data stolen included data on FIFA 21, including some of their matchmaking services. It also included the source code of Frostbite, which is the main development engine that EA and DICE use to create their games. It's basically the underlying infrastructure behind games like FIFA and Madden and Battlefield. Now, each game developer builds this engine, and it takes a lot of work, but every developer's engine is completely different from each other. And so for this to have been stolen and being actively sold online as it is, it's a pretty big deal, and EA is really rushing to try to plug the leaks. So how exactly did attackers manage to pull this attack off? Well, according to Motherboard's Joseph Cox, attackers were able to purchase for just $10 a cookie that was used by EA in their Slack channel. And so for those of you that don't know, a cookie is basically a piece of information that contains data about about particular sessions online. We each get cookies from various websites we visit. It's just information about our session. Say you log in, it might have information about that. So it could have credential information. It may have API data, and that may have been some information that was in this cookie was API data into Slack, and that allowed them to basically contact the EA internal IT team, where they performed a social engineering attack. They were able to trick the IT team into believing that they had lost their phone at a party, and they needed to get a login token in order to log into their machine. So of course, the IT team, believing this to be a valid request from a legitimate employee, passed the login token to the attackers, and then the attackers had access. So from there, they were able to enumerate the environment, they were able to pivot. Ultimately, they were able to identify all of the sensitive proprietary data that existed on that network, and they were able to exfiltrate that to their own storage. Now, some estimates on this attack show that attackers have gained up to 780 gigabytes of data. And now that they have it, they're trying to sell it all online. So why exactly is this important, and what does this mean specifically for EA? Well, if this were a smaller attack, let's say even FIFA is all the code that got stolen. Yes, that's a bummer. I mean, that's a lot of work that they put in, and thievery is bad. But there will be a FIFA 22 and there will be a FIFA 23, and those will be different games. However, Frostbite, the underlying game engine, that's a bigger deal because other companies and competitors could potentially buy that data. Now all of this is actually illegal. They can't just buy it and do so ethically. However, it is a thing that can happen, is that a competitor could buy this source code from the attackers and then try to use it to develop their own game engine or perfect their own game engine and provide a more competitive product. And so the Frostbite game engine being taken, that's a pretty big deal. So what does this mean for us everyday people? Well, fortunately, nothing yet, being that player data is not something that was stolen, and we are, for the most part, player privacy is protected here. However, it's important to understand exactly how and why this attack happened. And one thing that we can always say is, hey, good passwords and use multi-factor authentication. Now that's probably what was going on here is they had credentials to log in, but it was like the two-factor authentication code sent to the person's phone. That's what they needed. And so that's how they were able to negotiate the two-factor authentication protocol, was just socially engineer the IT staff. However, that being said, anytime one of these situations happens, if you're on the IT staff, do trust but verify. Try to 100% verify that who you're talking to, especially whenever they're trying to gain sensitive data like a login token. Really try to 100% verify that they are who they say they are. Now, there might have been some previous conversations between the user that the attackers were able to break into and the IT staff. Those conversations might have happened, and so the IT staff may have been a bit more comfortable with this individual, and that's why they may not have tried to verify that who the attackers said that they were. However, again, those periodic spot checks, that's really what you want to think of it as. Is your spot checking, or even just having a really quick procedure in place to check every single time, so it's not a spot check and there aren't any gaps in security. Now, of course, use common sense, follow cybersecurity best practices. If you want more information on this story, follow Joseph Cox. He's on Twitter and he writes for Motherboard Advice. Give him a follow online. He's been doing a lot of great reporting on this and on other stories. So with that, like this video if it's helpful, comment. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.